Shalom, friends! Welcome to Orange Socks, a podcast celebrating Jewish creativity. I'm your host, Yitzchak Muli, inviting you to join me in exploring the soul of Jewish expression. Shalom, friends! Welcome to the Orange Socks podcast, and I'm in a beautiful gallery, Rabbi Schmidt's gallery. I'm with Rabbi Menachem Schmidt in Old City, Philadelphia. This is the Old City Jewish Art Center.
And it is.
There's some history here. So we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
But you're a hero of mine. I don't know if I've told you that.
Hero.
You've heard that enough.
I don't know about that, but okay, fine, whatever.
You're a rabbi, you're a shliach, you're a creative. You were a gallery director until you gave that up to someone else. You wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to have you on this podcast for a while to pick your brain, to hear your thoughts on the intersection of Judaism and creativity. So where we begin, I'm not really sure. Maybe begin at your beginning.
Okay. I don't know where you want to start. And creativity, by the way, it's just, I don't know about, so creativity, when you talk about art, is one thing, but you have to remember something. One very important thing to remember in terms of art is one of the most notable artists in this century, I guess, I don't even know if it's in this century, he's not in this century, but who influenced people, Marcel Duchamp, spent the end of his life playing chess as a artistic expression. So that's just, art doesn't have to look if you want art to look in a certain way, it's not, my artistic expression is what art means and everything like that is, I'll tell you one thing, my background in art, is negligible, but I was a person who was always interested in art and music. I've been playing music since I'm 4, I think. But art I was always interested in.
Art, it's expression. Really, it's about expression. It's not about, the fine arts or visual arts.
Right.
It's all form of expressions of the soul, and music is definitely up there.
Yeah, for sure. No, and there's a lot about it in Hasidic literature and stuff like that about music and art. But at this point in my life, art I'm looking for different ways to give people a connection to spirituality and Judaism and God. All of these things are very good, are good mediums for that. And that's my major interest at this point in terms of these things. This gallery started because we're on a street on 3rd Street, which is Gallery Row in Philadelphia. And one day I was walking, and my daughter lived on the other side. My daughter and son-in-law lived on the other side of the street, and we would be walking past through what's called First Friday, which is promotion for the galleries. We'd walk past, during this time.
So what would they do on a First Friday?
All the galleries are open, and they all have promotions. So they're giving away wine, or they're giving away beer, or they're giving away tchotchkes, or they're giving away something. And
it's a crowd. There's lots of people.
Try to get people. There'd be, a lot of people on the street. And I kept on walking past that First Friday, going, it's Friday night. There's nothing Jewish going on. Right. Why can't we do something Jewish? So we decided. There was my friend had a friend who owned this gallery, and Judd Yehuda, and a wonderful guy. And I said, can I borrow your gallery?
Okay.
So I had another friend that's a photographer, and he's a really commercial photographer, but his work is really the lighting is insane, beautiful, really striking lighting. Okay. Right. The composition, the compositions were beautiful and the lighting is beautiful. You could just be like some footage for pictures of some executive or whatever, but right. It's really something. And so I asked him, would you do an exhibit about time? So fine. Then we took quotes from, I think, Zvi Friedman's book about bringing heaven down to earth. We put them on the walls.
Okay.
And then we decided, I think it was my daughter Chani's idea, to give out crunchy brownies, which was the signature food here that we used to give them out on the street. And basically, and I think we were giving out then also little bowls, little cups of chicken soup with a matzo ball. I think, I don't remember. I'm not sure, but I think so. I don't remember. But the story, and the first time we did it was Friday. It was a Friday in February, which was unseasonably warm.
Right.
So it was, it had been like 2 degrees before that. And all of a sudden, the temperature went way up, and everybody had cabin fever, and everybody's coming out of the woodwork. And people are coming in, and it's like, and I'm just like, for the hell of it, I'm sitting right over there someplace, and I'm like looking, people coming in the door. I'm just counting people. I got to like 1,000 after, I don't know, an hour or so, just kind of, and I wasn't counting every person. I just said, okay, there's
something here.
There's something here. But that wasn't what made me decide to do it. We were making Kiddush every half an hour.
Right.
And my son, Benny, was made Kiddush, and he doesn't remember this, but I remember this. There's a guy standing in the back listening to make Kiddush, somebody probably 70 years old or so, an older gentleman, and he's crying. And my son walks over to him and says, listen, I'm sorry if I did anything to offend you. And he says, you didn't offend me. I haven't heard Kiddush in 50 years.
Wow.
So at that point, I realized that there are people that are going to come in here that aren't going to come into a shul or a Chabad house. And it's just another door. It's another door to open. And besides the fact that this place also brings in every type of human.
Yeah.
And I mean every type of human.
Yes.
And we've had some excitement with bringing in every type of human, but it's generally brings in people at kind of the height of humanity. It's just, I always appreciate having dinner with, every type of person, and sitting next to, I had my chevra, my anyway, the ability to express ideas, all different ideas and stuff like this through this gallery is really great. So the art art enabled us to do this. Music also is a great connector we've been using. I mean, I'm on shlichus, really. I ended up coming to Philadelphia because of music.
Okay.
Actually, so
I want to hear the whole story.
Well, I'll tell you the story of my musical journey.
Please.
But kind of. So like this. So when I was in college, I went to Syracuse University. I have a degree in television production from Newhouse School of Communication. I went to school with some of the guys who helped to start MTV and ESPN and a bunch of other people that are.
What years were this?
I went to college from 72 to 76.
Okay.
In 74, I became connected to Chabad, which is a longer story, which it would take most of this podcast, so I'm not going to go through that. But basically, my best friend knew a bunch of Lubavitchers, and then I ended up to being in Crown Heights and went to yeshiva. And actually, so I'll tell you that story also, because that's important to this. It's important to this thing. So I was, one of the things I did besides, I was in Syracuse and I did regular television production and, news and this kind of stuff. That's what I was kind of studying. Where I would end up, I think I would probably end up in...
But television production's kind of not the same as film. Film is more technical production.
But listen, in the end, everything is artistic. Everything, has a certain, perception behind it in a way that and how you present and all those kind of things. So there's no such thing. Look, when you're doing television news, you're just getting up to the camera, you're putting it in front of somebody's face, but in the end, you're editing it. You're making a lot of choices.
Sure.
It's not, putting a picture on a wall makes a statement about the picture. A picture on this wall with the brick in this gallery has creates a different statement than a picture someplace else.
Sure.
This is there are a bunch of artists talk about that, but so anyway, I get to yeshiva, and so I was in Crown Heights, and a guy asked me, do I want to go to yeshiva? And my friend and I were like, listen, sure, we'll go to yeshiva, we'll do anything. We're like a bunch of hippies, my hair was out to here, whatever, and I'm a musician, and we'd done crazy stuff, so
Just another crazy thing.
Another crazy, I mean, the only thing is I was Jewish, and I knew I was Jewish, and I appreciated being Jewish.
Right.
So, going to yeshiva and learning something about Judaism was something that appealed to me, was fine. So we get to the yeshiva, and so the Tuvia Teldon, who was the one that kind of pitched the idea to me, who's now head of Chabad in Long Island, he was a young student. Maybe he'd been in yeshiva a year, maybe not even. I don't remember. And he said, why don't you come? He was the one that invited my friend to come to Crown Heights, and then I ended up going with him. And he said, well, why don't you come a little? If you're going to go to yeshiva, come a little early so you can kind of acclimate yourself to yeshiva.
So yeshiva
and then
was
Morristown.
Okay.
Lubavitch Yeshiva in Morristown, and you'll come for Shabbos. But but Shabbos is something you'll have to acclimate yourself to. So come a little early so you can also acclimate whatever the word is to yeshiva. Awesome. So we got there Thursday night, and the yeshiva had left because it was Hanukkah, and the Rebbe had a farbrengen. The Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, used to dress. Have farbrengens. That was the main way that he communicated. And the only person that was there, and the whole experience was a pretty incredible experience. And we, at the end of the farbrengen, everybody came back from Crown Heights, and Rabbi Lipsker, who was the head of the yeshiva, had a farbrengen. A farbrengen is. This is it's a whole podcast in itself again.
A Hasidic soul
gathering. But one of the things he communicated, which really resonated, is that that praying or speaking creates energy.
Right.
And when you're praying or you're studying, it creates holy energy and it goes into the atmosphere.
Right.
And that idea really resonated with me. And one of the things that I did, which didn't have to do with my major, but is that I was in Syracuse, and I did video art. I did video art with a guy named Bill Viola, who's whatever. I'd like to get in touch with him. I don't know if he ever wants to see me again, but he's like a big, if you're into the video art world, he's a famous guy. And I would and as I started getting more involved in Judaism, I would pray or learn or something like that in the editing room, and I would do that kind of stuff. That would start coming into my mind in terms of kind of, and those kind of things are a different dimension of approaching these things. Anyway, so just so. The story behind the music is just a great story. So, I'm a rock and roll musician. When I was 12 or 13, I joined the rock and roll band. I've been playing guitar and actually keyboards for a long time.
Out of a garage?
No garage.
No garage. That's why you didn't make it to the big time.
That's right. Actually, that's another story, but. So, we played around a lot and stuff like this. And when I started becoming religious or whatever, observant, I felt that I should stop playing guitar. It was, it's really not a lot of great things happen. A musician is the soundtrack for everybody else's party.
Right.
And they go home and you don't. And so I knew a lot of people that were musicians that just didn't have wholesome lives.
Right.
And it just didn't. And at one point I just said to myself, I don't know what I'm, besides the fact that I didn't know any Hasidic music.
Right.
And, fine. So I kind of figured I'm going to stop playing guitar.
And where were you on your religious journey by then?
At that point, I was in yeshiva. I had graduated college already. I For the last 2 years of college, I was religious, and in Syracuse, which is a whole other story, but we'll leave that alone. And that summer, me and a guy named Moshe Morgenstern and a bunch of other people,
Yes.
we started doing productions like the Rebbe would emphasize getting children together, getting them to say Torah sentences and to pray and to give charity together, to give tzedakah and do all these beautiful things. So we would come up with plays or different things to be able to get the kids, it's call up a camp. Hey, we got a play for you. Well, our yeshiva will come, we'll put on a play and we'll do a thing and we'll get the kids to scream.
You let go of the music, but you found a different outlet.
Well, wait.
Okay.
So then we realized, like, okay, but on the other hand, we know how to play music, and the museum and the yeshiva is about yeshiva. It's a yeshiva where everybody wasn't always religious. So there's a lot of musicians there. This guy's a folk guitarist. This guy plays violin.
Right.
This guy whatever. So I said, okay, so listen, So eventually we decided, listen, we're going to play, but I'm just not going to play guitar.
Okay.
It's called Praving Escafi. I'm going to put aside
so there'll be a band.
We'll be a band.
We're doing a show, a play on something,
but we'll
and a band.
And we'll do what we'll call umpa music, which is like regular, like freilich music, right? And and we were going. We made arrangements of 4 or 5 songs, whatever it was, and then we interspersed them in our little play, and we got people to say the Torah passages and give charity, and it was real, and it was popular. It was popular. We could go to call up camps. We could gather all kinds of kids together. It was a great medium to do that.
Right.
We get to Starlight, Pennsylvania, to I think it's called LTF. It's a B'nai B'rith teen camp.
Okay.
And the band is basically, it's a rock band because that's all the guys were previously rock musicians. But
right.
We didn't admit it to ourselves. And I'm playing drums, which I'm like I wouldn't say I'm fair. I'd say a fair to poor drummer, but I can keep a beat,
Right.
And which was good enough for this group. And the kids, now they're teenage kids. So the other kids were playing for grammar school kids, younger kids. These are teenage kids. And so 2 things happened. One is that I'm watching them, and like after the songs, they're lighting lighters. If you remember, now everybody uses their phone, but then before the phones, they're lighting lighters. It's like, it's like a rock fest. We're like, what's going on here, guys? This is crazy, because they're like, we're just playing, So the more they did it, the more the harder I played drums. And then finally, I flipped the beat. In other words, a freilich beat is and a rock beat is and that. So I flipped it so that I flipped it to a rock beat. I switched it, and then all hell broke. The kids were like going, crowd went wild. Nobody understood what I did, but that's what I did. And so at that point, Moshe Morgenstern, the bass player, my good friend from Morristown, who was then in the band, and gets up in a chair and he makes the immortal statement. He says, goes like this: "We love you people," and they go, "Yeah." He says, "We're from a Hasidic yeshiva." They go, "Yeah." In our yeshiva, the men dance with the men and the women dance with the women, and everyone goes, "Yeah." We're like, "Holy, well, what had just happened, Moshe? Wow, that's great." So everybody danced separately. They went crazy. And that was the launch of what was something called the Baal Shem Tov Band, and Yitzhak Bitan joined. Later on, I switched back to guitar, and the band was me, Zvi Freeman, who was a famous writer and contributor to Chabad.org. He played rhythm, I played lead, and Moshe played bass, and I played drums. And then I didn't want to become a professional musician, and neither did anybody else. And Yitzhak obviously wanted to go on his career, so he So soon after that, started working on his first album, Songs for a Brother.
Right.
I played on that album. 3 solos are mine on the album.
Nice.
actually.
I grew up on that album.
I'm
I
sure.
remember.
So if you remember, in the field,
Yeah.
and he was a holy man.
Yes.
Okay, so those two solos are my
Okay.
solos.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to them
Okay,
again.
okay. Anyway, no, they're great, and he's a great musician and a great. And what happened with that band is, unfortunately, it was a tragedy that summer in Ganyasro, in the camp in the Catskills, and they were looking for something to get the kids
Lift their spirits.
lift their spirits. And somebody mentioned, I had met Rabbi Shem Tov because we played at the University of Pennsylvania for Purim. David Rothschild brought us, another friend, and we went to camp. And Rabbi Shem Tov characterizes like this: for the first third, we entertained them. For the second third, we entertained each other. And for the last third, they went so crazy, they just entertained us. We could have stand there and done we could have stand there and done nothing.
So the kids really got into it.
They really got into it. And, a lot of those things were experiences that we really, and we realized that, and by that time we had taken a lot of, Jewish music, Hasidic music, and kind of made it rocky, and people appreciated it. One time, and when we went our shlichus, we started in Philadelphia. I used this
So
a
you
lot.
came to Philadelphia because
I came to Philadelphia. Well, I met Rabbi Shem Tov because of that. I got married a few months later, 7, 8 months later. Then we were in Kolo for a year. But during that time, the Rebbe told us to come here.
so the Rebbe told you to come to Philadelphia.
Yeah, work with Rabbi Shem Tov, and I use music a lot. And I'll just tell you an interesting thing. I'll never forget this. So we used to block off Spruce Street, which is the street right in front of the Chabad house at the University of Pennsylvania. And we used to put up a big sukkah in the middle of the street, 40-foot sukkah, and we would have a petting zoo and food, and our band would play, and stuff like this. And one guy standing there, one guy says, "Why do you have to destroy this music like this? What do you have to rock it out and make it like that?" I mean, by the way, it's like this was a little early in the scene. It was, maybe Diaspora Yeshiva Band had been maybe 2 years old by that time. I don't remember. I mean, and maybe a little more, but this wasn't pervasive like it is now. And
So this guy was a traditionalist.
yeah,
and,
so he's over. I still and he's standing there, standing. I love it when people do this. I'm trying to play guitar. This guy's giving me. He's
Trying to talk to you.
trying to talk to me, and I can't talk when I play guitar. It's not. Anyway, so he goes, "So why do you have to destroy the music?" I go, "Okay, watch." So I said, "Okay, watch this." Okay, the next song we played with a traditional beat, a Freilich beat. The crowd thins. But then I said, okay, then we've played whatever. We played Ufaratz or whatever song we played with the rock beat, and all of a sudden the crowd comes back. I said, okay, so now you see. You can see with your own eyes.
Right.
So, as long as you, and the other thing about that is you have to keep your head on, especially Baal Shem Tov Band. We used to learn a mimer, we used to learn a Hasidic discourse before we played, and we try to keep focused. But it's not easy. It's not easy. But the bottom line is that when it comes to all these things, it says, our job is to make a dir b'tachtainim, to make a dwelling place for God in the lower worlds, to make a dwelling place for God. To be connected to God on Yom Kippur is easy.
Right.
But to be connected to God on Tuesday afternoon when nothing's going on, or when, when you're having fun, when you're involved with your passions, that's not a place where you don't need to take a vacation. You don't take a vacation from God, from godliness, from goodness during that time.
Right.
And so all of anything that's at your anything that you have that's at your disposal, that can help with that, that can communicate that, can express that, your own expression, or help other people connect to it. That's very important, So, I'm not, for full disclosure, even though I like playing music a lot, it's not like I still mainly play for for other people for programs and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't have time to, sit around my house and play guitar. That I don't have time for anything anymore.
Right. So you would like to. It's not that.
Yeah, it's not that I wouldn't like to, but if I have time, I'm going to learn a mimer or something.
Right.
This course, usually.
Right. I think it was quoted that the Alter Rebbe said that what you could achieve through a mimer, or through a song, through a niggun, is 50% of understanding Chassidus, something like that. As Rabbi Yosef Patil said, music to itself is
it's very holy.
not just a means to an end, but it's
no, it's yeah. In art also, and all of these things. Look, it's also an interesting thing. The Rebbe, so one of the ways that the Rebbe explains shlichus, the whole idea of Chabad houses and the whole wave of things that are happening now with all these new Chabad houses and rabbis and rebbitzins and all these people going out, is in one of the talks he said like this, that in every generation there has to be something new, and and the idea of a shliach, the whole idea of a shliach, or these the people that run the Chabad houses, the shluch and the shliach, are to create this like a newness, a chiddush in the world, and get other people to be shluchim. In other words, the whole idea is not that you crown these guys, whoever they are. So these are the creme of the creme de la creme, and they're the representatives, and everybody else is like a schlepper.
right.
It's that our job is to be the catalyst for everybody else to understand that you can make a dwelling place for God in the lower worlds, that you can make the world better, that you can make, we can all bring Mashiach, we can all, create a change in the world. It's important, and we all have the power to do it. That's our purpose. And so part of the idea, and an interesting thing is, a lot of times, it's not so much now, but in the 60s and 70s, the people that were running Chabad houses would be in constant contact with the Rebbe,
Right.
and would be sending in like flyers that they're going to put up, and posters, and ads and articles in the newspaper. It was protocol to send that to the Rebbe, usually first, and the Rebbe would answer, and the Rebbe would critique them.
Right.
Many times, the Rebbe would critique an ad or a poster and say, "But this was the same thing as last year. This is a poster for a stupid Sukkot program,
right.
and you're sending the same." But the Rebbe says, "Why is it the same as last year? Why not?"
Right.
Because you have to. Because
Fresh.
it has to be fresh. Things have fresh expressions, and thinking about how to, and it's just so it's all connected to these ideas. So anyway,
Did you have any interaction with the Rebbe in terms of, or did the Rebbe give you any direction in terms of creativity in art, or was that not something that?
First of all, the music, I don't really remember what happened with the music, because the music was very little controversial in a certain way because of.
That's good.
But
Not controversial anymore.
it's not controversial anymore.
What was?
But it was, it wasn't really, people weren't doing this kind of thing. It wasn't, Eli Lipsker, Eli Lipsker was the band, and Eli Lipsker's band was, no improvisation, no, not really improvisation, and, it was very, it was, that kind of thing. I don't know, there was a little, whatever it was, the whole thing changed. Listen, I'm not saying he was a great musician and a great person, but when we also just lost tonight, right before Shabbos, a great artist and a great person, Avi Piamenta.
Yes, Baruch Dein
Emes. Baruch Dein Emes. And he, also the Rebbe gave him a lot of direction, he and Yossi, his brother, Olav Shalom, a lot of direction in terms of how to kind of keep your head on straight and keep focused.
Right.
on the right stuff. The problem with artists is that sometimes is that it's not self-expression is important because God made you to be something. But sometimes it's almost like self-worship. It's like I have to express myself, and
Right.
okay, it's good. So express yourself. But there's limits to. We need to express ourselves in ways that make ourselves and the world and all those that are connected to us better.
Right.
And art is not always.
Right. No, art is definitely pushing boundaries in all forms.
So pushing boundaries is a very good thing generally, as long as you're pushing boundaries in good directions and wholly in positive, wholesome directions. Then,
well, bringing a rock beat, as you say, to a Jewish summer camp, but to any Jewish gathering. You said it brings it brings a new energy. It brings people together. It cranks up the energy of an event.
Yeah, I mean, we were excited. Yitzchak's, I don't remember. I really don't remember what the deal was. What the thing with the band. We wrote. I don't remember. I just don't remember. Maybe Svi remembers, but I don't remember. But anyway, but it was really interesting. A really interesting thing about that band was also the guys people that were like between the ages of like 25 and 40 were mainly horrified Hasidim.
Right.
The guys that were older, like 60 and up, were like thrilled. Oh, you're taking rock and roll and you're going to use it? Oh, it's great. Oh, it's amazing, really cool. I mean, they didn't say really cool. It was like, oh, there, whatever. But, it was really
so the older had an appreciation.
What my experience was, older people had more of an appreciation for it.
Interesting.
I think it's also whatever, but so that was the music. And coming here, we use the music a lot for especially working with students, and there's certain things we do. I mean, we do Friendship Circle has a walk, and for the community, it breaks down boundaries, and also like you see a rabbi standing there playing guitar. It's like that's not what a rabbi's supposed to be doing. So
that alone
does something. If I don't play well, it's that's my problem. I think about, but but in general, people watching, and if you're halfway decent, people will kind of give you a look like, oh, really? What's this guy? It's kind of weird, but that's good. We used to play a lot on South Street, which is kind of the Greenwich Village, the hippie part of Philadelphia. We used to play a lot there, and it was, really you could break a lot of boundaries that way. And it's the same way, because it's the same thing with the gallery. I'll just tell you about the gallery. So one of the fellas who did a lot of what's called mitzvahim, a lot of outreach, and got people to do mitzvahs here, his name is Yeshua Levi Levin. And before he got married, he would be here a lot, like putting tefillin on with people and doing this kind of outreach. And at one point, it was the first night of Pesach, and he goes, I'm gonna bring like 30 people to the Seder, to your public Seder. And I said, no, you're not. He says, what do you mean I'm not? I am. Tell you I am. I said, okay, we'll see. So, because I said,
you were daring him? You were
no, because it's like this. Anybody on the first night of Pesach that's not at a Seder,
right, doesn't want to be at a Seder.
Probably doesn't want to be at a Seder,
Right.
or it's not important enough to them. And to say, okay, you're going to go 10 blocks in another direction, go to a place where people that you don't know, et cetera, and you haven't made any plans for Pesach, not so much. I said, you can give away a lot of matzah.
Right.
But, and he did. He got maybe 5 people to come that night. But on the other hand, I don't know how, he gave out a lot of shmura matzah, a lot of handmade matzah that night. And, that was, there were the barriers, there was no barriers to entry. And people came, they weren't judged.
So
You
it
know,
was a first Friday. That
it
was
was
the
the
first.
first Friday. That in town
It was
was
the
the
first
first
Friday.
Friday.
It was the first. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, but like I said, but people, so you were able to reach people that would not think about going to a Seder to eat shmura matzah, to have matzah, and to do something for Pesach that night. And besides, if they would eat the matzah by that point, it was the right time to eat it, to do the mitzvah, etc. Was a big deal. So, those kinds of things, the environments, this environment, the environment of the gallery where we are now is it's not a show. We use this for singles events and stuff like that. I know you're not allowed to say singles anymore. For young professional events.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, now you know. Okay.
With the band, were you writing music? Was anyone writing music? Was there any original, was it in terms of expression,
So look, I used to write music, when I was in college and I had a band and stuff like that. So I used to write music, and it just takes time. It's just not my problem now. Is I don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Right.
I'd love to write music, but it's not.
You got a lot of projects. You got a lot
of
plates.
projects, and this is not. It's not. It's and by the way, I'm playing with the guys that I play with generally are very, very top level musicians. They're great musicians.
So you give them sheet music, or it's jam band style?
Well, first of all, we've been playing. The guy that played keyboards with us, he just quit because he's became writing scores for films.
Okay.
And he's had opportunities doing that, and he's making money. He's getting himself out there. So, I can't. But we played together probably at least 15 years, and he was since he was at least 15 years, probably more than that. And the guys we've been playing a lot of and so we really jam on a bunch of about 25 Jewish songs that the Baal Shem Tov Band, the original Baal Shem Tov Band without Yitzhak made a.
Yeah, do you have any recordings?
We have one. We had one, but it's a long time ago. Made a long time ago. After I came here, and I reconstituted the band without Yitzhak. And by the way, if anybody hears it, it's Ufaratz. So that Ufaratz, the arrangement is actually Zvi Friedman's arrangement. So if you're
okay,
it's so a lot of those arrangements were kind of reworked then, and then they've kind of evolved over time to for different now. So it's not so much rewriting; it's a matter of just kind of rearrangement and kind of reimagining, and also we have to do it in a way we don't have to rehearse because nobody has time to rehearse.
Right.
But they're great musicians. We only play with great musicians. So
how has your Hasidic knowledge affected your music, and how has the music affected your Hasidic knowledge? Or are they just two different parts of you?
Well, I don't think there are any different parts of a person. There's no such thing as different parts of you. If you're pretending
you compartmentalize.
If you compartmentalize things, then you're not being honest with yourself. So, you have to, look, I don't.
So how has your Hasidic knowledge, your learning Chassidus impacted?
So I, certain terms of, so like I said, music at this point is not, at this point, every opportunity I have is something I'm trying to utilize for this purpose. And music is one of the arrows in my quiver, and what, the opportunities that God gave me. I wouldn't even call them talents. They're just opportunities. And, and it's, and I thank God for them. Look, it's your concept of Hasidus and affects everything that you do profoundly. And especially as you get older, things are not Also that affects a lot your impressions of the world. You're not as hot-headed or as, I mean, I'm pretty hot-headed still, but, you're not, you have opportunities. And it's those things are really important. So knowledge of Chassidus, as that becomes deeper and you can understand, look, the bottom line in Chassidus in the end, the Rebbe constantly talked about Mashiach. And it's, to be honest, it's the idea of the Messiah, a very scary idea to most people. It's a very scary idea if you don't take it apart. And as time goes on, what the Rebbe explained, that what's the idea of the difference between Gola, which means exile, and Geula, which means redemption, in other words, Mashiach, is an aleph. In other words, those two, one's a Hebrew word with an aleph, and one's a Hebrew word without an aleph. And that represents Alufo Sha'olam, it represents the master of the world, it represents God. So in other words, it's all a matter of whether or not you see God in whatever you're doing. So seeing God in what you're doing is not like, oh, now I see God, oh, now I got it. It's not, that's an infinite process. So as life goes on, that's an infinite process also. So in terms of whether that's music or art or interpersonal relations or anything, that's that opportunity. And, which brings me back to this, when I heard Rabbi Lipsker talking about this at the Farbringen, kind of the energy that you're bringing into the world, and that Farbringen, however many years ago, 50 years ago, so I'm still, that's a concept which is, I'm wrestling with that every minute. Even, now when we're doing this podcast, the question is, how can I utilize this podcast in the best possible way to do something positive for the world?
Right.
That's what everything is about. And when you look around the world, the darkness in the world and the hate and divisiveness between people, the fact that people just, the Rebbe said labels are for shirts. The people that once there's a label says you're just irrelevant. So the more things that we can do to give people an opportunity to connect and to look beyond that, if you like art, so listen.
So art is a way to break down barriers.
Art is a way to break down barriers, and look, and I can't say I don't like art, and can't say that I don't appreciate it. And when I come into the gallery every time there's a new exhibit, I'm like walking around and I'm looking, checking out the pieces, and I'm seeing, and it's important. Those kind of things are important. It's there's a holiday in the year with Tu B'Shvat, and Tu B'Shvat is the holiday of fruit.
Right.
So Chassidus explains that, listen, to eat, to live, you need like grains and water.
Right.
So like, why do we have a holiday for fruit? Like what you don't need fruit to live. You're not going to die without fruit. You die without food, but basic food, you need grain and water or some sort of protein or something. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist, but
fruits are luxury.
But fruits are luxury. Fruits a taiva. It's a desire. It expresses desire. Well, a person, to be a full person, has feelings, has intellect, has passions, and all of that has got to be utilized in your to be a full person.
Right.
So to walk around and pretend that whatever, I'll do whatever, that's not a way to go through life.
Right.
So you have to be alive, and you have to, and all these things are opportunities. So look, I'm saying so even though I'm talking about music, that, even though I'm talking about music in this way, like it's a utility. Still, if I have a guitar in my hands and you try to have a conversation with me, good luck. It's just not happening.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, along those lines of fruit is my favorite bracha. And my favorite bracha is the bracha we say on fruit trees in the month of Nisan,
Right.
in the beginning of spring. And the words of the bracha, which I suppose was made up by Anshe Knesset Agdola, the great rabbis of yesterday, and it's Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Asher bara ilanos tovos, God who created beautiful trees, shelo chisa ba'olamo klum, that there's nothing lacking in God's world. And why? Why did God create it? The bracha could have ended there. Thank you, God, for creating a beautiful world that lacks nothing. But the last three words are lahanis behem es abrios, for people, for human beings to have hana, to have benefit, to have pleasure from this world. And I mean, I think that this blessing should be a whole ceremony. Chabad houses should do a whole ceremony around this blessing. It's a tough time of year. There's Pesach right there in the middle of it all, but to celebrate the beauty of the world, to celebrate the beauty of God's world, and to celebrate the beauty that we create.
Yeah, and listen, celebrating beauty and joy. Look, you look at a Farbrengen with see the Rebbe's, the craziest joy, is, I'll tell you, I mean, just joy is something. There was a guy, whatever, and we used to have a shul, which is now a mikveh, and there would be a Farbrengen after every in the morning services on Shabbos morning. We have a Farbrengen. And one guy used to come and I used to harp on this guy, like, you have to enjoy being Jewish. Like you have to celebrate being Jewish. It has got to be like, this is the most fun thing that you do. And if that involves, whatever it involves, that's the thing. To celebrate these things is really important, and to enjoy itself breaks through barriers, and breaking through barriers is really what a lot of this is all about. It's, look, when somebody goes on the street and asks a Jew to put on tefillin, are you Jewish? Do you want to put on tefillin? Do you want a Shabbos candle? You're breaking through all kinds of barriers. That itself is breaking through barriers. Which person wants you to come over to them and step into their space?
Right.
It's not, breaking through people's space and connecting people with each other and all these. This is really important. And if we can figure out ways to do that, to break down walls between people and to break down those things that hold us back from being totally immersing ourselves in making the world better and holier, that's amazing. So, that's, I mean, maybe I didn't give you, maybe I'm not creative enough for but to me that's the point, and that's the point.
Okay. So I got two closing questions for you.
Okay.
Putting you on the spot. Who are three creatives that you can recommend that you think our audience should know about? Across the gamut of creativity, or just music, whatever works.
Oh, so
Jewish creatives.
Jewish creatives. No question, Avi Piamenta.
Avi Piamenta.
Is,
right.
I mean, it's not because he just passed away, but it's also because I never met anyone who had the level of joy in being Jewish, and just as in general, just like, and there's a Yiddish expression, a Süßkeit, like a sweetness, that, he was, I can't believe I'm saying was, he just was special. He was so special, and also an amazing musician. Other musicians, and by the way, not that I love their music, it's that much. You
love them as people,
but I love him as a person, and his music is great. But
right.
Who else? Now, I don't know much about him, but what I've heard him talk about, Mel Luxembourg as an artist, was really exceptional. Is really exceptional. Just and has a lot of discussions with the Rebbe. Baruch Nachshon also. Baruch Nachshon. I guess those are three people that I think. Fortunately, Mel is the only one that's alive, I guess.
Right.
I would say those three if you're asking me.
Okay.
I'm dating
Okay.
myself, so, you know,
It's all good.
yeah.
So the last question is, what's your advice to young creatives for them to find their orange socks, for them to find their creativity?
So first of all, you know, learn Chassidus.
Okay.
It's, there's nothing that makes me happier, nothing that keeps me grounded more. It's not all about me. And nothing that kind of opens you up to possibilities more.
Okay.
And also, make sure that if, you know, you have advisors and help people that make sure you don't go off the rails, but don't worry so much, you know, like, it's not, when it comes to, you know, look, when we started this gallery, you know, if I would have asked 20 people what they thought, they would have told me I'm nuts. It wouldn't be the first time, you know. But,
Right.
you know, but it's done some really, really amazing things. And Zash and Amuna, I have to thank them that they run the gallery now. And, you know, so if it wasn't, but, you know, it's, you know, there's a friend I have here, a guy named Josh, who says, hurry up and fail. That's
Okay.
a good, you know,
line.
and that's not only important for art, but like I said before about Marcel Duchamp, art, the idea of creativity is not only in the arts and music, it's something which really is part of life in general. It's the fruit of life. So,
Rabbi Schmidt,
okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi Muli.
היום נעשה משהו בלתי נשכח